Welcome to the Secret Art of Business, and today I have Monica Womack. Thank you so much, Monica, for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We said a little bit offline. We have no idea how we got connected, but I am so glad you're here because your LinkedIn profile is fierce. I always have such respect for women that have had any affiliation with the military because that is a man's world, and you were making it happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
um, Let's just go where you are right now. We're going to talk a little, we'll backpedal a little bit on your career just in general. But for right now, where you ended up is that you are the president and CEO of Blue Violet Productions. So please tell us, what is Blue Violet Productions?
We are a film production company specializing in documentary media. We create documentaries that entertain, enlighten, and inspire.
I'm such a sucker for a good documentary. So
So am
I'm already
I.
intrigued. I'm already intrigued, and I will sometimes, when I have nothing else to do, I will look and see what somebody has done a documentary on, just so I can learn more about it. Like maybe I was too young when something happened, or something like that. But just kind of get a little bit of a backstory. And what's interesting is that your career, or your college career, especially started with a master's in science of media communications. So you clearly had a little bit of storytelling going on in the back, but then you got right into this job where you're deputy chief of national outreach. Oh my God, I'm getting so tongue twisted. Deputy chief, national outreach of the U.S. Army Reserve. So how did you go from there to there?
So it's interesting. I was in Chicago, and I was sort of in a space where things weren't really happening the way
Hmm.
I had expected them to happen. I was planning to work for a cable network company, and that fell through. And I was in the Army Reserve, and I was thumbing through their magazine while on the phone with a sorority sister, and I saw that they needed my specialty full time. And I just mentioned to Tracy, her name is Tracy. I was on the phone with Tracy, and I said, Tracy, the Army needs, public affairs officers, which is what I do
Right.
full time. But it would require that I relocate, and I'm just not really sure about that. And Tracy said, Monica, go.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to get away
Yes.
from Chicago, go.
Hmm.
So that same week, I completed my application to become an active duty service member versus just working in the Army
In the reserve.
Reserve. And I was placed in a position as a public affairs officer, and I don't have any regrets about it. I learned
See why you
so
would.
much, and I was able to do so much. Um,
Now, that was in Virginia, is that correct?
well, I actually, my first assignment was in St. Louis.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I've been quite a few places. I
Yeah.
started in St. Louis. From there, I went to the National Capital Region, and then from there, I went to North Carolina, and then back to the National Capital Region. So it's been a few places,
It
but it's
has,
been
but
very rewarding. It's been a very rewarding career, and it actually complemented my skills as a documentarian. So I
that's
was
what I
very
really loved
happy
about it.
about that.
Yeah, that's what I really, really loved about it is like, you may have fallen into the reserves, but this magazine, you open it up and that was just kind of like the rest that started your next step into this great world of exactly what you wanted to do, what you were really good at, which is so incredibly fun. And you essentially worked your way, up and up and up. You've, been at the Pentagon and things like that. So yeah, you are in the heavy mix of a lot of stuff. And just being a storyteller just at that level, I think is really great because a story has to get out to people in a respectful way, be it other people in the military, or if it I'm assuming you would have to do some PR so public would see some statements and things like that. So is that about how it was?
Absolutely. In as far as working on active duty with the Army and the Office of the Chief of Public Affairs, I wrote what they refer to as public affairs guidance. So I
Okay.
wrote a lot of guidance for the public affairs officers in the field, so that they could utilize that guidance.
Perfect.
The Army is a series of written documents, most of it being
And this is the person
guidance,
that did it.
um, telling people what they should and should not do. and how they
Yeah,
should do it.
exactly. I
And
love
I
that
was able
because
to do that in terms of the public affairs career field.
yeah, that is definitely an area that needs a little guardrails. You can't have a bunch of Shannons with all this information just spouting off at everybody. Um, but along the way, you decided that you wanted to start your own business. So,
Yes.
at what point did you decide, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing?
It's interesting. I was probably 6 months away from retirement, and I was walking through the E-ring of the Pentagon, and I was like, I'm still relatively young. At least I like to think so.
Oh yeah.
And I was thinking, what could I do? What should I do? And I had this epiphany, and it just basically spoke to me and said, do what you do. And I do documentary work. This was an opportunity to utilize my degree full time and utilize the expertise that I had learned as a subject matter expert in the Army Reserve, to also utilize those skills full time. So on February 7th, 2019, I launched Blue Violet Productions out of the state of Virginia.
I love it. And whose stories are you telling?
I am telling it, you know what? A lot of people think that they don't have stories, but I always tell people I have a story. You
Hmm.
have a story. Everyone has a story. So we're telling several different stories in terms of target market.
Hmm.
It's the 55 and older community. Those
Okay.
individuals have a tendency to have, uh, to care, in my opinion, more about legacy and
Oh
heritage.
yeah.
So you know, they have probably more stories than most people. First responders, our veterans,
Yes.
um, former government officials. These are all individuals that have served our country and our communities, educators. So we reach out to those individuals, and sometimes they reach out to us,
Hmm.
and we tell their story in a video format, and we refer to it as a video memoir.
Very nice. And do they make them for themselves personally, or do is there a place where people can watch all of these?
So we provide them with the media, so they have an option. Aside from us having the right to post it to our website, they have an option whether or not they'd like to share that on, let's say, for example, a YouTube channel, or if they would like for us to help market their particular video to
Okay.
share, let's say, on Amazon
Hmm.
or Tubi or some of the other cable network channels.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. And like you said, everybody has a story, but I'm going to guess at some point you came to that realization. Was it at one of your jobs, or was it just kind of an epiphany you had before you started this company? It's like, you know what, everybody's got a story and I'm going to start telling it. Or did you just already kind of know that?
I started, I took a look back at my career and all of the individuals that I had met. I'd met so many people, uh, everyone from, let's say, probably one of the most notable people that I met was Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
So
that's
I
pretty
also
cool.
met Steve Harvey, I've Yolanda Adams. I met a lot of people. So everything from Adams to Wonder. And I started sort of thinking about their lives and our lives and how, even though they're famous individuals, they have a story, but we have a story. I
Right.
have a story as a retired lieutenant colonel in the United States Army. I have a story.
Absolutely.
You have a story.
Oh, I do.
So when I started thinking about all of those stories, that's when I came up with the idea.
I
Let's
love it.
focus on video memoirs.
I am so curious about people, and I love that you are doing that because I like I said, I think everybody's story is fascinating, and I love to hear about their journeys and things like that. Like, how did they get to where they are now? Which is a great segue that I've just given myself to ask you. Before all of this, before you decided on a major in college, what did little Monica do for fun?
Before I decided on my major in
I'm
college,
talking
oh, we're going way
like
back now.
A little kid. We're going back. Just a little kid. When you woke out of bed, maybe on a Saturday morning, what were you excited to do?
Well, I was excited to go outside like most children. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. I started writing at about age 7, and it
Oh
started with
wow.
poetry.
Oh my, wow.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, and I recently restarted that
Oh my gosh.
yeah, that passion for poetry. I started writing again. So I was writing at about age 7. I didn't start filming until age 19. Obviously, I was in college. But
Whoops.
I'm so sorry. That's what happens when you have cords attached and you move your hands. And I of all people should know better. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I started writing. So I started like gathering papers and writing out poetry and writing little short stories.
Oh wow. So it's all still
So
in there.
that's yeah. I was also I was a very athletic child. So I liked running.
Mm-hmm.
So which followed me into high school and college. I ran in elementary school, then in high school, and at the collegiate level. I competed.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah, so that's what I love to do.
Did you were you like what did you like hang out with a lot of the boys because the boys games are more fun, or do you like to compete with them, or do you
I
have a lot of
did like
brothers or something like
I
that?
yes, I have 8 brothers. It was 8 boys and just 3 girls. So it was
Oh my goodness.
interesting. I am a huge football fan, and here's why: the boys monopolized the television. There was one television, so what did we
Yeah,
watch? Whatever the
we watched
boys wanted to
we watched
watch.
football.
Yeah, so
So still a
yeah,
Bears fan, or did you move
I
on?
am still a Bears fan. I'm
I am
also
too.
I'm a Commanders fan also because my husband is from DC. So so we're
Well, he's
Bears
so that's when
Commanders
he's got the
fans.
TV on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I very much when I lived in the Chicago area, I was Bears, Bulls, Cubs, all that sort of stuff. And a lot of it was
Yes.
because, it started with that's what the boys were watching. And I just found them to be a little more interesting than what the girls were doing.
So
And I had to ask that because you were so, you were talking about sports and things like
yes,
that. And
love
usually,
sports.
there's, when you're young, especially, there's that competitive streak that we have. Or like, and
Yes,
I'm just
and I
gonna,
am a Cubs fan as well.
oh,
So
awesome. So we had a great year a little while back.
yes, yes, yes.
Bears not so much, but
Yeah.
we'll be back. We'll be back.
Yes.
I love that. So now when you are you're working, you're recording, and like you said, when you start when you kind of break away from that, get a break, you're finding yourself writing poetry again and things like that. Now, is that something that's just for yourself? Are you looking to share that with others,
I'm
or
eventually going to probably work on an anthology.
ooh?
Um, I I will probably work on an anthology, a memoir, written,
Mm-hmm.
as well as children's books.
Oh,
So
tell me more about that.
so
Although I love the memoir part too, because I do think you got a total story there.
so
But
yeah, I
let's talk
started
about
like
children's books.
I developed the interest for writing children's books. It's probably been 20 years, but I actually didn't really put the pen to the paper until
Mm-hmm.
about 10 years ago. So then I decided that maybe I need a little more. I hate to say training because that's like an army term. So I needed probably to learn more about the technique.
Sure.
And for that, I reached out to the Vermont College of Fine Arts, and I'll
Mm.
probably take some courses with them.
Oh, I love that.
I'm an individual. I like to get it right. It's important to
Mm-hmm.
me to ensure that I'm always producing a great product. I don't want
Right.
a good product. I want a great product. So even from my film to to, to my to books to poetry, everything, it needs to be great. I don't want to release anything that isn't great.
If you're gonna do it,
I
you're gonna
don't
do it right.
settle
Yeah.
for good.
I'm kind of like that too, and unfortunately, that people always tell me, "You know what? Just get something out there." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I can though, because what if it's terrible?"
I've been told that too. And my team, I know I drive them crazy sometimes when it comes to filming because I want to get as close to perfection as
Yeah.
possible.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, that, in a way, well, I don't know. That in a way is a little different. I'll just start what I was going to say first, but just because you're kind of people are trusting you to tell the story. So for
Yes.
me, yes, I would be like, this has got to be perfect because I don't want to make sure the story is told right.
Yes.
And I might, in that perspective, I might be a little more loose with myself. But even then, like I said, there's still something about, if I'm going to share this part of me, I want to make sure that it's received really the way that I want it to be received.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. It's so they're entrusting something to, in my opinion, sacred to
absolutely.
us to tell.
Absolutely. I mean,
So
they are opening up, and it's like, this is a
yes.
gift, and I have to treat it as precious as it is for them.
Yes. I have to get it right.
I love it. How big is the team that you work with now? What
There's
you're
7 of us.
7 people, and what part do you do? Are you directing? Or are you just
I am
putting people
directing, I'm
together?
sometimes producing, and on rare occasions, I am actually interviewing for the documentaries.
Oh, very nice. What's your favorite part of that?
My favorite part is probably directing
Okay.
because you have more of the overall uh, your hands are you're covering the entire project
Yeah.
basically. Your hands are over the entire project. So in terms of the creative process, and you get to tell the cameras what shots you're looking for. I even do the questions. I even tell them I'm particular about what order they're asking the questions, even though you can always edit to
Mm-hmm.
change the order. But for me, I'm establishing a I'm creating this entire ambiance when we're filming. So it's important to me to even have the order correct because we're building. We're building to it's a climatic point within their story
Yeah.
that we're
Yeah.
trying to reach.
Yeah.
And so it's important to me that we approach it the right way.
Yeah, I love that you said that because in some cases, not all documentaries, but I love particularly documentaries that have some sort of, like you said, just some sort of high point. Now, this person may have struggled, may have, lived in poverty or parents died or something like that. But we all love that story where there's a little bit of a happy ending to it or something lesson learned. Because then we start looking inward and just saying, you know what, if that person can do it, I can too. And they serve as a little bit of inspiration on how we can get through hard times or even harder times if that other person has experienced something harder. But I always find it just so, like I said, just so uplifting and inspiring to see someone's story. And again, they'll be like, I don't have a story, my story is terrible. It was like, oh my God, no, but it's a great story. It's not all perfect, and we can't have perfect stories because who's going to see a movie when nothing happens?
Exactly. It was interesting. I was having a LinkedIn conversation with someone, and they were saying, "I don't have a story. My story is I was divorced twice, and something." He went on to say a few other
Oh,
things,
that's
and
so meaty right there.
and I said, he named a bunch of negatives, things that had happened, and I said, "The good news is you're still standing. That's a story."
Absolutely. That's the story.
Yes.
That's exactly the story. But yeah, there is so much to tell, and just even just that little outburst.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I really love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Like I said, storytelling is one of my favorite things. I love poetry. I wish I was better at it. Maybe I should take a class too. But my daughter has recently been inspired. She's taking a poetry class in high school, and I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be so
Oh,
awesome because
great.
just the written word for me is amazing. And that's not my forte. I paint and I draw and I do like fine art sort of stuff in my spare time. But there's just something magical about great stories and being able to express them for other people. So I appreciate you sharing stories too, because that's where I kind of um, unwind too, is just like with a really great documentary or seeing someone else's story, like CBS Sunday Morning and stuff like that. They got these little snippets of stories of people, and I'm like, I just eat it up. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, I
So I
love that.
love,
I
love,
love
love
those
what you
stories.
do.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so
I
much.
think like I said, your career is just, I get it. Like I said, I can't wait for this memoir because I think your career is very inspirational. Like I said, you were doing some hard work there. And even before it was, more of an accommodating place for women in general. You know, you're probably in many cases the only woman in the room, and you're just getting it done. And I think that is very admirable. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. Thank you
Thank
for that.
you.
And thank you for being here today. And I will have your
Great.
information
Thank you.
for your business in the notes on the website. So again, that is Blue Violet Productions. And if people want to get hold of you or learn more about you, then they can go to your website and find out more.
Yes, it's actually blue-violetproductions.com.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. And I'll have that all in there so people can just click on the link and get right to you. So thank you again so much for your time
Thank you for
today.
having me.